Everyone, so I've only just recently opened up a YouTube account and an Instagram account, and I've had a few people reach out to me and say, can you share your story? I've been sharing it on TikTok and Facebook for a while now, but anyway, I'll try and share a little bit about it. To start off with, I'm the author of the book Predator's Paradise. It's a story about my life growing up in institutions and on the streets of King's Cross. I'm not going to do a big, long, convoluted or long-winded story, but I'll just try and give you the crux of it, I guess. So I'm born to a mother who's an alcoholic, heroin addict with schizophrenia, and a father who's alcoholic, who's violent also, and a fucking grub. There's not a lot to say before the age of 7, except for that I was removed from docs 22 times, and they kept putting me back with docs. And then at the age of 7, I come home from school one day, and there's a bull wagon out the front of my house, and they're taking my dad away to prison for a heinous crime. The next day, I'm dumped into an orphanage with my siblings. 2 of my siblings get out, and the next under me in age, and I spend the next 18 months to 2 years being bounced around to different orphanages. But it's when I get out of the orphanage that things really start to take shape. Now, my whole childhood, I remember a lot of sexual activity, a lot of promiscuity around the adults and us kids. I have quite a lot of memories, but it's when I turn about 9 where things start to really take shape. First, I have one of 3 events that happened at 9 years old that I'll never forget. The first one was my mother trying to sever my fingers with a KNIFE, and she was addicted to Beck's powders, and one morning she woke up skitzing out, and I become the person that she attacked, and her and a friend dragged me into the bathroom, and I didn't know if she was going to do it or not, but she did, and I've still got the scars on my hands today. The second event was, there's a couple of them actually, there's 4. The second one is my mother was giving me Jack and Jills to make me sleep because I was apparently hyperactive, and it was through this that one night I woke up and I was being scotch taped by a family friend named Pat Chase. The next one is, I remember my mother going through a back window and coming out and saying, "Look what I've done," and she got 110 stitches in one arm and 100 in the other. I still get haunting memories of those events. And then the 4th one was my mum's brother, Uncle Alan, attacking me with a strap, hitting me about 40 times, then hitting little Alan 40 times, then hitting me again. I had welts across my face, across my groin, across my back. I mean, I'm literally everywhere. You got a 19 stone, 6'5" drunk attacking a boy that's like just this tiny little fragile boy. But what starts to happen is I get sent to live with my dad when I'm 10. And at the age of 12, I start running away from home. And of course, what follows there, I end up in places like Warramai, Yasma, Minda, Albion Street, and eventually I end in an institution called Darrick. And when I'm in Darrick, again, I go through SA abuse, a lot of violence. I shouldn't have been in Darrick. I was supposed to be at Reby, but someone in their infinite wisdom decided to separate siblings. And because I was the oldest of 2 siblings that had run away, he got sent to Reby and I got sent to Darrick. When I get out of Darrick, I run away again, but this time I go to docs and I say, "Look, I am sick to death of being fucking hurt." I said, "I ain't trying to run away. I don't want to end up in Darrick or back in Mount Penang or any of those institutions." It's like, for fuck's sake, help me. They put me into foster care, right? And again, like I'm living in a 3-bedroom house with 9 adults and another child and myself, and I'm put into a back bedroom of that house, and in that back bedroom are 3 adult men. 2 of these men have prior convictions for SA abuse, one against a girl and one against a 2-year-old boy. The one, Les Carter, that abused a 2-year-old boy, the whole stay I was there didn't leave me alone. It starts with me again in my sleep being woken up by being abused by a fucking grub. I end up going back to live with my mother, who's now moved to Whyalla in South Australia, and then one night, about 3 days after I arrive, my mum gets in a punch-on with her boyfriend, Henry. Dick, we used to call him Dick. Dick didn't. Dick wouldn't. He was just a fucking douche. And they were both drunk all the time, and this time they tried to have a fight with each other, and being the bigger brother, I decided I'm going to try and fight this guy. The police end up getting called, and I'm the bad guy. I'm always the fucking bad guy. Actually, the police turned around and said to my mother, "There's nothing wrong with this boy, mate. The only thing I can see wrong with him is that he's got a mother who's a drunk." So I end up getting put on a bus with my brother to Oxford Street to meet my real dad. My dad meets us at the Oxford Street bus terminal, and as my brother and I start to follow him, my dad turns around and says to me, "Fuck off." He said, "Where do you think you're going? You're not coming with me, mate. Fuck off. Go to your foster parents," or someone like that. I did go to my foster parents. They didn't want me because I'd left. I'd been given an ultimatum that if I left, I could never come back. I didn't really want to be there anyway with a SA predator all the time. So they put me on a Train, gave me $5, and off I go to King's Cross. That very first night at the bus terminal, I almost get abused by a predator that night. The reason I called my book Predator's Paradise is because I walked into what's called a predator's paradise. If you read my book, you'll see the story is quite lengthy, but I end up spending a lot of time. I move into a refuge that's run by a children's magistrate, a Prime Minister, Bob Hawke, a magistrate called Rob Blackmore, and the leading privacy advocate in the world named Simon Davies. The actual refuge is run by 5 predators and a woman who's complicit in that abuse. I lived there with my girlfriend, we're both 15 years old, and for the whole stay that I'm there, pretty much I'm being abused. Then what happens is in August of '83, they close the refuge down. We're all arrested and taken to Bajura Children's Court to stay in custody there, which is run by the judge that runs the actual refuge. And in December, I'm placed by that court into the custody of my primary abuser, Simon Davies, and his family. My girlfriend, Linda, ends up getting murdered. She loses her life, right, to a couple of grubs. The guy that do these crimes, they get 20 years jail, but then they appeal, and they gave it for a judge named Judge Eldon. And Judge Eldon's a predator who's preying on little boys in Wynyard Museum Station, and he sets her killers free. What happens then is I run into 2 of my abusers from the refuge in '94 outside King's Cross Station, across the road from it, and I walk up and I'm fucking angry, and I said, one day I'm going to tell the world what you did. One day I'm going to write a book. And I said, one day everybody's going to know what you fucking did. Simon laughed in my face. He said, you're a fucking junkie, mate. You'll be dead by the age of 21. And he said, you can't even read and write, bro. How are you going to write a book? I had to fill out your forms for you when you joined the refuge. What ends up happening here is pretty sad. I pick up heroin, and I become a heroin addict, and for the next 30 years of my life, that becomes my life. I go in and out of jail for armed robbery, extortion, demand money with menaces, assault and robberies, all sorts of fucking crimes. And it's not until 1996, when I'm out of prison, I'm sitting in my lounge room one day, and 3 Johnny Hoppers come knocking on my door, coppers, and they're in front of my family. They say, hey mate, you've been identified by multiple victims as victims of S crimes and SA abuse, and we'd like to talk to you to talk in the Woodrow Commission. I end up giving evidence in the Woodrow Commission. 2 of my abusers are convicted, Paul Chetwynd Jones, Ken Fogarty. 18 months they got. They abused multiple children, but the cases run concurrent. So it doesn't matter if you did 100 crimes, you get 100 18-month sentences, and they'll all be just 18 months. Make that make sense. Try and tell a survivor of these abuses that's what your value is, 18 months. What happens is I end up going to rehab in 2009 to try and change my life and turn my life around, which I do. Sadly, I end up with thyroid cancer. I've got hepatitis C. I'm butcher's hook. I've also got a melanoma on my back. I get all these things addressed when I leave rehab. I pick up, when I first get out, the heroin again. But then I decide that's enough. I'm fucking done. But the problem was I moved here to Blackstone. I had to go through 4 more trials against 4 of my abusers, all of which was convicted. One of the leading privacy advocates in the world, Simon Davies, I had him extradited back from the Netherlands. But under the statute of limitation laws, he was able to negate a majority of those charges and take out a majority of those victims. But 3 of my charges against him stuck, and he recently got 10 years. The problem here is that I moved to the Blue Mountains. I've got deep-rooted depression. I've got PTSD. I'm not using anymore, but I may as well be. I'm doing everything an addict does, bar the actual using of drugs. But I sit on a lounge for 10 years. And what's happened, and I'm being honest here with my story, I'm in victim mode, right? I'm a fucking victim. And everything's just making me angry. I'm fighting with men all the time. I've been brought before the courts repeatedly where a judge says to me, if you punch one more person, Glenn, you're going to jail. And he said to me, I'm 47 years old and I haven't punched anyone in my life. And I said, bruh, I said, you live in fucking Vaucluse. I said, come and live in the housing projects where I fucking live and see how many people you punch walking up to a methadone clinic every day. But I'm off methadone, I'm off heroin, I'm off all those medications now. I am on a Vanta for depression, and I am on thyroxine because I don't have a thyroid because I had to do a thyroidectomy after my cancer. But that's a very short version of my story, but it's my story now that matters. In the last 2 years, I created what's called the Leg Up Project, and I go down to the streets now and I reach out to people who are homeless. I reach out to people who are in addiction. I reach out to people who have trauma. On TikTok, I've managed to sell nearly 6,000 books. My account under TikTok and Instagram is called Tiger4life 66. Check out some of my videos. I'm also on Facebook. Look up that and you'll find my one of many different channels I have on Facebook. I have one for survivors. I also run an NRL podcast on YouTube with a mate of mine. I've been doing that for about 8 years, 10 years now for a super coach. And yeah, I'm also on Instagram under Tiger4life 66. I just had a video get 500,000 views. I cannot believe that anybody would want to watch a 58. Nobody really. Oh look, I got in trouble last time I called myself a nobody. I don't think I'm a nobody. What I mean when I say that is, you know, I'm no different to anybody else. I'm just another person who's been through a lot of trauma. But I've turned that trauma around. And how I did that was for three things. Firstly, I started to find gratitude, to realise I've got a roof over my head. I'm still alive. So many of my friends are not. Two, I found purpose, and that purpose is where I go out and I work with homeless on the street. And I've created a section in Melbourne, one in Sydney now. The Leg Up has a staff of 10 people, and we're actually evolving daily to go to Adelaide, Perth and all other states. And yeah, so that's a very condensed version of my story. But if you want to read my story, you can at least read the prologue at the back. Go and Google this name, Predator's Paradise, and you'll find I'm pretty much, I just did 2 current affair interviews. So if you check out, I haven't posted them on YouTube, I don't think, but they are on Instagram and they are on TikTok. So if you go onto TikTok and look up, I said Tiger4life 66, check out my 2 current affair interviews. And the reason I want you to see them is, watch the first one I did after the sentencing to Simon Davies. I am broken. I look like an old man, broken. I'm doing this with my hands. I'm looking down. I have absolutely no confidence. They did another current affair interview of me about 6 months ago where I'm walking the streets and I'm doing the stuff I do on the streets. And I can see myself, the difference in the man I am. I stopped feeling sorry for myself. I started to find gratitude. I started to find purpose. And now I'm out there trying to change other people's lives. And I do. I get hundreds of messages on all my platforms every day, people reaching out to me. Some people say mean things, like there's the one that keeps coming up is, oh, poor man Spaniard. Like, Spaniard's story and mine are very different. I grew up in the Cross way before he was even there. I love what he does. I love what all other creators do. What I don't do is go into other people's lanes. I just stay in my lane. But I've actually been on Facebook for 10 years. Just nobody gave a shit or nobody knew my story. It wasn't until about 2 years ago I came on TikTok. In the last 2 years, I've been to Melbourne 3 times. I've never been out of the state really or flown a plane. I've been to Brisbane. I've been all over the place. I've been to Canberra to speak at Parliament House. My book's been taken into Parliament House. I've done 2 current affair interviews, as I said. I did an indoor flying. I'm fucking scared to death of heights. And I train every day. I box 2 days a week and I do weights. I don't box to be tough. I'm not tough. I'm fucking 58-year-old man. I'm fragile. I do it because I have struggles in my mental health. And I know that every day when I go to the gym and I do a little bit of weights or I do a little bit of boxing, it changes the mindset. And that's what we need to do. We need to get out of this victim mode. We need to because ain't nobody going to come and save your sorry ass, man. The only person that can save you is you. And, you know, I wished I had this information when I was 16. I really love my girlfriend. I try not to talk too much about her because it upsets me deeply. You know, for her to lose her life at such a young age just seems so unfair. And if it was the only one, maybe I could deal with that, but it wasn't. There's Bam Bam, there's Yasmin, there's Tracy, there's Sharon. The list is endless. And Michael, Stephen, and the people that lived in the refuge. I mean, 4 of the people that lived in the refuge I lived in got life, right? Hurt people. One of which is Les Murphy, another one, Monkey Jamison. I won't say the other 2 because they're not in the same realm or scum as those 2 are. I actually recently got asked by a solicitor if I'd give evidence on behalf of Les Murphy around his abuse in the refuge. And I really had to wrestle with my conscience here because my heart says what he went through was fucking horrific. But I went through much worse, and I'm not trying to compare people's stories, but my point to that is I didn't go out and do any heinous crime like he did. Anyway, thank you for listening to my story. If you want my book, the best value for me is if you message me. It's cheaper than buying it anywhere else other than Kindle. If you go to Kindle, you can get it for about $12. From me, it costs $40 plus postage. So just shoot me a message if you want it. I'm actually writing another book. It's called Escaping the Cross. If I had the knowledge I have now, the book would probably have a picture of King's Cross on the front with something to do with King's Cross, and it wouldn't be called what I called it. But I called it that name because that's what I used to call King's Cross. It literally was a predator's paradise where police corruption allowed predators to roam free. And what would happen was the predators would ply the children. The children were the commodity, right, with money. They would supply it to the dealers who would then bump it up to the coppers. It was just one fucking big mix of of fucking corruption, and I have watched multitude of children pass away on the streets of King's Cross. So the reason I speak today is for them. I'm their voice now, and I love them people, man, with all my heart, and I always will. You know, there's nothing worse than seeing a child pass. To see multiple children pass, from overdoses to unaliving to disappearing, or to MURDER, to be brown bread. Too much. Anyway, thank you for hearing my story.